4:47 a.m., November 14, 2025, East 55th Street and Euclid Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio. A silver Honda Accord rolled through a green light at 12 miles per hour. A white Dodge Caravan came in from the right and hit the Accord's rear quarter panel at 9 miles per hour. Both vehicles pulled to the curb. No airbags deployed. No visible injuries. The drivers got out, swapped insurance cards, and called tow trucks that showed up within 4 minutes. Both tow trucks belonged to the same company. Both drivers had done this before, 22 times before, at this same intersection, in different vehicles, with different plates. What agents would eventually call Operation Gravel Ledge had just recorded its 2,801st staged collision. The Lake Erie Collision Group ran 22 auto body shops across Cuyahoga County. To anyone driving past, they looked like ordinary businesses. Signs advertised insurance-preferred repair. Waiting rooms had coffee machines. Staff wore uniforms. The shops employed 140 people: mechanics, tow operators, intake specialists, billing coordinators. Damaged vehicles sat in the parking lots around the clock. Underneath, a $470 million insurance fraud operation that had been running for 26 months, using 34 intersections as choreographed collision points, recycling paid participants through 6 pain management clinics for phantom neck injury billing, and hitting a dozen insurance carriers at once. It wasn't caught by a drone or a federal wiretap. It was caught by a junior claims analyst named Priya Menon, sitting at a desk in Columbus, Ohio, working through 6 unrelated accident reports on a Tuesday afternoon in October 2025. Priya Menon had worked at Heartland Mutual Insurance for 3 years. The job was routine: review submitted claims, cross-reference documentation, flag discrepancies for senior adjusters. On October 7, 2025, she was working through a backlog of Northeastern Ohio collision claims when a vehicle identification number appeared twice in the same afternoon's queue. A 2018 Nissan Altima, different plate numbers on each report, different listed owners, different accident locations. She pulled the full claim history for the VIN, 6 separate accident reports over 8 months, 6 different license plates, 6 different registered owners, all accidents in Cuyahoga County, all resulting in soft tissue injury claims, all vehicles towed to shops affiliated with the Lake Erie Collision Group. Menon didn't call law enforcement. She wasn't required to, and had no formal grounds at that point. She flagged the anomaly internally, wrote a memo to her supervisor, and went home. Her supervisor forwarded the memo to Heartland Mutual's Special Investigations Unit. The SIU analyst, a former state trooper named Deshaun Vickers, recognized the pattern in under 30 minutes. He'd seen staged collision fraud before. Not at this scale, not even close. Vickers contacted the Ohio Department of Insurance Fraud Division on October 9th. The division contacted the FBI Cleveland field office on October 11th. By October 14, 2025, Operation Gravel Ledge was formally opened. The case went to Special Agent Claudette Marsh, a 12-year FBI veteran who had spent the previous 4 years working organized fraud in the Northern District of Ohio. She was assigned Task Force Officer Radavon Peck from the Ohio State Police and Forensic Examiner Tessie Umaru from the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. Marsh's first move was standard: pull every insurance claim linked to Lake Erie Collision Group shops over the prior 3 years. What came back was not standard: 2,344 claims. Total paid, $212 million. An additional $258 million in pending or recently submitted claims sat unresolved at the time of the query. The hit rate, the percentage of vehicles towed to a given shop that subsequently generated a personal injury claim, ran at 61% across Lake Erie Collision Group locations. The industry average for legitimate body shop referral networks, 8 to 12%. 61% cannot exist in a legitimate business. The gap between those numbers was the entire case. Marsh and Peck started mapping the network in late October 2025. What they found over the next 6 weeks made clear the structure wasn't improvised. It had been engineered. The Lake Erie Collision Group was incorporated in 2022 under a Delaware holding company, Lake Erie Auto Services LLC, listed to a registered agent in Wilmington with no public principals. The 22 shops were held through 7 subsidiary LLCs, each registered in different Ohio counties. Ownership traced back to Lake Erie Auto Services through a chain of pass-through entities designed to put distance between the shops and any single point of legal exposure. The 34 collision intersections had been chosen carefully. All were in areas with moderate but not heavy traffic camera coverage. All had approach angles that limited clear sightlines from nearby businesses. 17 of the 34 were within 3 blocks of a Lake Erie Collision Group tow dispatch zone, meaning response times averaged under 6 minutes, fast enough to look responsive, controlled enough to keep third-party tow operators from reaching the scene first. The 6 pain clinics billing for phantom injuries operated under separate ownership on paper. In practice, 3 of the 6 shared a billing coordinator named Irene Soldat, who processed intake paperwork from Lake Erie Collision Group referrals at $400 per file. Soldat was not a medical professional. Her prior job, administrative coordinator at a telemarketing firm. The billing itself followed a pattern Tessie Umaru identified within 72 hours of receiving the financial data. Every phantom injury claim submitted through the 6 clinics listed one of 4 diagnostic codes for cervical strain. Treatment duration: consistently 8 to 11 weeks. Billing per patient: consistently $14,000 to $19,000. No patient was ever referred to imaging, specialist consultation, or surgery. The treatment records used identical language across hundreds of individual files, with only names and dates changed. One detail that stuck with me when reviewing the case documents: the billing codes were so uniform that Umaru's initial algorithm flagged them as data entry duplicates. The software thought it was looking at the same record copied multiple times. It took a manual review to confirm these were distinct patients, each with a name, social security number, and signed intake form. The signed intake forms were real. The patients were real people. They had been recruited. Going through the recruitment structure in the investigative file, one pattern kept standing out. The operation wasn't built on anonymous strangers. It ran on community networks. Participants were recruited through word of mouth in specific Cleveland neighborhoods, paid between $800 and $1,500 per staged collision, and coached on what to tell responding officers and medical intake staff. Many had done it multiple times. One participant's name appeared on 11 separate claims over 14 months, each time as a passenger in a different vehicle with a different plate. What's most surprising about this case isn't the dollar amount. It's the operational discipline. The Lake Erie Collision Group ran 2,800 staged accidents over 26 months without a single participant going to law enforcement voluntarily. That kind of internal cohesion doesn't happen by accident. It's enforced. Marsh flagged the organizational structure in a November 2025 briefing to FBI Cleveland's Organized Crime section. The case was upgraded. Additional resources were authorized. 2 undercover elements were approved. The insurance industry's fraud detection infrastructure is at least a decade behind what this operation exploited. 12 separate carriers were being billed simultaneously by the same network, and none of their fraud teams had cross-referenced claims across carriers. The only reason Priya Menon caught the duplicate VIN was because all 6 claims happened to land at the same company. If those claims had been spread across 6 different insurers, which is exactly what the Lake Erie network was doing with every other vehicle, the anomaly would never have appeared in a single queue. The system didn't catch this. One analyst's alertness did. The first undercover element had Task Force Officer Peck posing as a freelance tow operator looking for subcontracting work in the Cuyahoga County market. He made contact with a Lake Erie Collision Group dispatcher through a legitimate industry referral board in November 2025. Over 3 weeks, he was vetted, interviewed twice, and offered a trial dispatch contract. On December 2nd, 2025, Peck received his first staging assignment. The dispatcher sent a text with an intersection, a time window, 2 vehicle descriptions, and a code word. Peck forwarded the message to Marsh within 4 minutes. That message was the first direct evidence that Lake Erie Collision Group personnel were actively coordinating staged accidents, rather than simply receiving organic tow referrals. Over the next 6 weeks, Peck received and documented 11 additional staging assignments. Each was photographed, recorded with court-authorized audio, and cross-referenced against claims that subsequently appeared in insurance carrier databases. The financial evidence was building at the same time. Umaru's analysis of Lake Erie Auto Services LLC's banking records, obtained through a grand jury subpoena in late November 2025, showed cash deposits across 23 accounts at 11 different financial institutions, structured consistently below $10,000 to avoid mandatory reporting thresholds. Total deposited across all accounts between January and October 2025, approximately $41 million. The structuring pattern was textbook. The volume was extraordinary. Consider Marsh's position. Undercover documentation of active staging, financial records showing systematic money laundering, and a billing analysis quantifying $470 million in fraudulent claims. The question isn't whether to move, it's how to move against 22 simultaneous locations without losing a single one. There's no clean answer to that. A sequential takedown would give the network time to destroy records and scatter personnel. A simultaneous operation required coordinating a minimum of 22 entry teams across Cuyahoga County in a window narrow enough that no shop could receive a warning call before agents arrived at the door. Then, on January 8, 2026, something went wrong. An Ohio State Police trooper unaffiliated with Operation Gravel Ledge ran a routine traffic stop on Interstate 90 east of Cleveland and checked the plate of the vehicle ahead of him out of habit. The plate came back stolen. Inside, Irene Soldat, the billing coordinator, with 3 filing boxes of clinic intake paperwork in the back seat. The trooper called it in. Marsh was notified within 11 minutes. Soldat was detained. The paperwork was inventoried. Her attorney arrived within 2 hours and told her to say nothing. The problem, Soldat had a phone. Before her attorney arrived, she had made one call, 22 seconds, to a number registered to a prepaid device in the name of someone whose identity didn't match anyone in the Lake Erie Collision Group's formal employee records. The surveillance team located the prepaid device via tower data within 4 hours. It was moving. It had already left Cuyahoga County. Marsh called an emergency meeting at FBI Cleveland at 11 p.m. on January 8th. The operational timeline had collapsed. If the network's leadership had been warned, evidence destruction was already underway. The raid, originally planned for a coordinated early morning window in late January, had to move to January 10, 2026, 47 hours away. The obstacle wasn't the missing person. It was paper. 22 search warrant applications, each requiring individualized probable cause narratives for a different location, had to be drafted, reviewed by DOJ attorneys, submitted to a federal magistrate, and signed within 30 hours. Marsh's team worked through the night of January 8th and through January 9th without stopping. The magistrate reviewed and signed the final warrant at 11:52 p.m. on January 9th. Operation Gravel Ledge moved to execution at 5:30 a.m. on January 10, 2026. 22 entry teams. Combined personnel, 184 agents and officers from the FBI, Ohio State Police, IRS Criminal Investigation, and the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Aerial support, 3 drones operated by the FBI's Cleveland field office, 17 vehicles from financial crimes units, staged to receive and catalog documentary evidence. The teams entered simultaneously at 6 a.m. at the Lake Erie Collision Group's primary administrative location on Brook Park Road in Cleveland. A 6-agent FBI team breached the front entrance at 6:01 a.m. Inside, a manager feeding documents through a commercial shredder. The shredder was confiscated. The documents it had already processed were bagged as evidence. Forensic reconstruction of shredded documents is standard procedure, and the partially destroyed pages were later reconstructed and used in charging documents. At a secondary shop on East 185th Street, agents found a locked back office containing a second set of billing records. Physical files not uploaded to any digital system, apparently kept as a parallel record of actual operations versus what was submitted to carriers. The discrepancy between those 2 sets of records produced some of the cleanest documentary evidence of intentional fraud in the entire case. Drone footage captured vehicles leaving 3 separate shop locations in the minutes before 6 a.m., apparently triggered by some warning, possibly a cell signal from inside one of the shops. Ohio State Police road units stopped all 3 vehicles within 4 miles of their respective locations. None escaped. By 8:30 a.m., all 22 locations were secured. 61 filing cabinets were loaded onto evidence vehicles and transported to a secured FBI warehouse in Westlake, Ohio. Digital forensics teams imaged every computer on site. Total data volume extracted, approximately 4.3 terabytes across 212 devices. Here's a question worth sitting with. Did 12 insurance companies' failure to share fraud data across carrier lines turn a manageable scheme into a $500 million operation? There's no comfortable answer. Arrests on January 10th totaled 37 individuals, shop managers, dispatch coordinators, billing personnel, and the 6 pain clinic operators. The prepaid device that received Soldat's warning call was traced to a man named Esteban Merrick, identified as the network's operational coordinator. Merrick was apprehended at a motel in Akron at 9:14 a.m., 41 miles from Cleveland, with approximately $240,000 in cash. and a laptop containing encrypted financial records. Merrick's attorney entered a not guilty plea at a January 13th arraignment. Federal charges included wire fraud, mail fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and money laundering, the laundering counts carrying a maximum 20-year sentence each. By February 2026, the Department of Justice had filed formal charges against 51 individuals connected to the Lake Erie Collision Group. A dozen more remained under active investigation. Grand jury proceedings continued through the spring. Subscribe so you don't miss the sentencing phase. The charging documents contain a secondary network thread that federal prosecutors have not yet publicly addressed. The financial picture that emerged from Tessie Umaru's forensic accounting was more complicated than the initial $470 million figure suggested. That number was claims submitted. Actual payments received by the network from insurance carriers totaled approximately $193 million over 26 months. An additional $277 million in claims remained under dispute, suspended, or under active review by carriers that had flagged anomalies after the arrests. Of the $193 million confirmed paid, roughly $41 million was traced through the structured cash deposits into identifiable accounts. The remaining $152 million hasn't been fully accounted for. Some moved through shell entities in Delaware and Nevada. Some transferred internationally. Federal investigators identified wire transfers to accounts in 3 countries, though the receiving account holders haven't been publicly identified. Here's what this case tells us about how fraud infrastructure operates at this scale. It doesn't require sophisticated technology. The Lake Erie Collision Group used paper files, prepaid phones, and cash deposits. The sophistication was organizational, compartmentalized knowledge, ownership separated from operations, real people with real social security numbers, generating documents that looked legitimate from any single angle. Priya Menon only saw the full picture because 6 claims landed in the same queue at the same company on the same afternoon. That's not a detection system. That's luck. As of July 2026, Esteban Marich has entered into plea negotiations with federal prosecutors. Terms haven't been publicly disclosed. Irene Soldat pleaded guilty in April 2026 to 1 count of mail fraud and is cooperating with the ongoing investigation. Her cooperation agreement covers the 6 pain clinic operators and extends to individuals not yet charged. The person who received Soldat's 22-second warning call before her attorney arrived, the one whose identity didn't match any known Lake Erie Collision Group employee, hasn't been located. The prepaid device was recovered abandoned at a bus station in Erie, Pennsylvania. That investigation remains open. Will this network rebuild under new ownership in a different city? Comment yes or no. The pattern exists. The infrastructure knowledge is still out there, and 51 arrests don't erase the operational playbook. 34 intersections in Cuyahoga County recorded 2,801 staged collisions over 26 months. Each one involved a real driver, a real vehicle, a real responding officer writing a real report. Most of the responding officers filed accurate documentation. That documentation was then used to support claims that were entirely fictional. The network is dismantled. $152 million remains unaccounted for. The person who was warned remains at large.